Welcome to Layers of Communication with your host, Lydia Taggart. Life presents experiences that add a layer to who we are and how we see the world, affecting how we communicate. Lydia is here to help you take apart the layers and create new ways to connect and build relationships. So now, please welcome the host of Layers of Communication, Lydia Taggart.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Layers of Communication. I'm your host, Lydia Taggart, and today we have a special guest, Heather Ruth, with us. I'm super excited to visit with her. Let me start off with the story, first of all. Remind you the purpose of this show is as we go through life, we have experiences that layer on to who we are, and sometimes we forget that they're just experiences, but they affect how we see the world and how we interact and communicate with other people. So we want to make sure that they're part of us, not our identity. That we're more than those experiences that surround us, and how we interact can be improved. We can choose a better way and more efficient ways and more consistent ways. And so I'm really excited to have Heather with us today. Tell you a little bit about Heather. She is a conscious life coach with a passion for connection beyond the technology. And that's what we're all about, right? We want to connect and be in touch with our family and our loved ones and ourselves. She loves to empower parents to put down the tech and practice presence with family and friends. She's a mother of 2 children. They're 9 and 10 years old, and they encompass her why to create a world of human connection to lead generations to a more whole, connected life. And so welcome, Heather. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here today. I'm excited.
So our technology, and I have teenagers now. All of my kids are just weeks away from being teenagers. They remind me often.
Yeah.
So I have a 17-year-old, a 15-year-old who'll be 16 in January, and then my quads are 12. They're going to be 13 in just a few weeks. So I'm like, oh, this technology stuff, right? And we need it. We need it for school.
Yeah.
And so when my son, Merrick, he was asking me the other day, like yesterday or the day before, he says, Mom, I want my own phone. And he's got these reasons, and they're legit reasons. But I said, you might not ever get your own phone. I don't know, babe, because it's already taking up so much of your world, and you don't even have your own yet. You're sharing with everybody. So we have, my oldest has his own, and my second has his own, but then the younger ones share a phone. Other than it's expensive, it's just kind of crazy. I don't think we need that much dependency on a technological device when they're so young and developing. What would you do with that, Heather? I know your kids are younger, so you got a really great head start on it.
No, it's funny because I talk to a lot of people that have teenagers that are, I want my own phone. And I have a really good friend of mine who was struggling with that whole topic this summer. And the conversation sort of revolved around, well, are you paying for it? So when the parents are in charge of it and they're paying for it, then you have a little bit more, I would say, control over the amount of usage that they have. It's the minute that they go out and buy their own phone and decide to pay for their own bill that it becomes, you can't tell them the time and limits that they can have on it. I believe my kids will not be getting a phone until they can either A1 afford to help pitch in with it, or we're going in so many different directions. We only need it for communication. Right. I'd like to just get them like the flip phones. Like if I could find that, that would be fantastic. I don't believe kids need to be connected all the time. What I mean by that is I don't believe they need to be connected to social media all the time. I don't think they need to be connected texting to their friends all the time. And the reason for that is it breaks down in their ability for communication. With the one-on-one human. And it's actually proven in science in a lot of the studies that I've read out of UCLA, and they started doing this in like 2013, is what are the breakdowns of the technology? And what the breakdowns are showing is that kids nowadays, like the generations coming up, they cannot communicate properly with each other one-on-one. They're also losing the ability to see and understand emotional cues that are given, right? Because we don't know what people's intention is behind a text message. We only know how those words made us feel.
Right. There's so much missed when it's just a sentence or even just an emoji. It means something different to different people. One of my favorite emojis to send is the wink face with the little kissy heart with it. I'm like, oh, that's so much fun. And somebody was like, I don't want to make out with you. I'm like, that's not what I meant.
Yeah. So the interpretations are personal. And then I think that the younger the kids are, they don't understand the impact. They don't understand that communication level. So I think it's really valuable to say, yeah, it's great you guys have a phone to share. And when you are mature and emotionally ready, then we can talk about the phone individually. But it's also setting the guidelines in your own house. Like my kids are not allowed to be on any kind of technology if I'm not around.
That's a good one for younger kids.
Right? So it's just for me, it's a monitoring aspect. And then they have to earn it. So there's certain things that they have to do. And I think that starts to mold responsibility. And I think that's really important. I think a lot of the kids, especially the newer, like 18, 19, 20, those young 20-year-olds, they grew up in the entitlement age. And you can see it, like the millennials, they call it. And you can see it because they feel they're entitled to earn $40 an hour right off the bat.
Yeah, they just expect it. Why can't I get $40 an hour, right? Why not?
Yes. So they're not understanding the earn it. And I think that the more parents that can really start to incorporate the idea of earning that time, it will become more valuable for the kids. They learn the value of the technology. And it's not just money flying out of our wallets every week or every month.
Right.
Right?
With work, as a work ethic and that responsibility that you mentioned, I've seen, I was talking with a mission president who is in charge of sending these young people out for service missions and getting them prepared. And a lot of them get out there and they're going to go and serve and help people, and they don't know how to interact with people. Before, there was a time where, not everybody stays the whole time. And when they would come home, it was because they didn't know how to do their own laundry. They didn't know how to, all these things without mom around, picking up after them and whatever, or they felt homesick, but it's not that anymore. Last week I talked with this mission president, and he was saying they don't know how to interact with people. They don't know how to talk and have a conversation without their cell phone, or they're texting their friends. They've got their friends on social media that they interact with, and they're like, oh, I have a social life, I have friends. But then when they're in person, they're still using their phones, or they're just not in person unless they're playing a game together, or like there's this whole interacting with a human piece that's missing, or we're starting to get missing. When you mentioned when you're responsible, we'll talk about it. How do you know when someone is mature and responsible enough to handle it?
I think that is going to be in every parent, every family, different situation. So I think it's really going to be based on the child. So if you're at a teenager, do they come home on time? Do they adhere to the rules? Do they clean up properly? Like, do they assist in the house? There's certain things like that I don't follow. My friends ask me, well, what do you give for an allowance, for instance? I said, I actually don't give an allowance unless they've done some work. And there's certain chores in my house that are just about helping out. Because you live in the household to make it work, you have to be a part of it. You don't get paid to do the dishwasher. We all have to do it. Right? And there's other things that they can earn over and above, like if they help sort the bottles, maybe I might pay you some of the bottle stuff like that. But I think it's going to be on a child-to-child basis. Is when they're asked to do something, do you have to ask them 5 times? When they are asked to come home, do they come home on time? Are they early? Are they always consistently late? What responsibility do they have in time management? I think is a really big one. If they can't manage their time right, well, how are they going to manage the technology right?
Well, and I think you hit the real big key on that is time management, because we want to use this amazing technology. It's amazing. It's really wonderful.
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't we want everyone to have something so totally awesome?
Yeah.
And have it with them all the time. It really is a great tool. My older kids have one of their own on purpose. We made that decision that they needed one, and even one for the other kids to share. But it's about time management, and this is, to me, where the line is so solid. Like, is it running your life? Are you always on the phone? Are you able to still do other things, like the chores and the working to earn the money, the responsibility? Will you be able to hold a job and have a conversation with a person, live, person-to-person kind of conversation? Or are you going to be like, oh, I don't know, I better get my phone out and send you a message, even though you're sitting right here next to me? And I've seen people do that so many times. They're sitting at a dinner table, even at a restaurant. They're sitting at a table and everybody's on their phone instead of having dinner together. And
that's so changed. Like, I found a cartoon thing from 1984. So it was a split cartoon. It said, in 1984, family dinners looked like this. And it was people sitting around a table, conversing, having conversation, whatever. In 2014, it became people sitting around the table with their heads down.
And so that's been several years ago already.
Right? Several years. Like, we're in 2018. So just imagine as technology progresses, because we can't stop that. And technology is a wonderful thing. You and I are getting to sit here and have a conversation. We don't live anywhere near each other, right? And we can still have a conversation. So I think it's a beautiful thing, but it needs to be managed differently. I think first, as parents, we have to take the responsibility of ourselves and ask ourselves, how often do we pick up our phone?
Mm-hmm.
What are we showing the next generation? What's important? Do I sit in the room and text my husband? No. Is it the first thing I touch in the morning? Do I pick up my phone and check my emails? I can't wait to just allow time and presence to be there. I have to go and be on social media right away. It's that fear of missing out that I think we live so far. It's like, oh my God, if I don't check in right now, I'm going to miss something. But you're not. You know what you're missing? You're missing your life. And
this reminds me of the famous marshmallow study. Are you familiar with the marshmallow study? You sit and wait, and they took all these kids, I think it was at Stanford.
Yep.
And they put them in a room with the one-way, two-way mirror thing, and they say, have this marshmallow. If you wait, then I'll bring you another marshmallow, so you can have more if you wait. And the difference of people being able to wait, those kids, they were kids.
Yeah.
But it's the same principle with all of us, no matter how old we are, I think.
They've done it with
time waiting. Have they?
They've done the study. Well, I've seen it on the show on Netflix called The Brain Games. Sort of alluded to that idea. Like, what's our addiction? What are we addicted to?
Yes.
Right? Cell phones, iPads, all of that, they're very addicting. I mean, it's proven, science has said it is. They've done enough studies. But what they did is they put a whole bunch of adults in a room. They made them take their cell phones and put them aside, like over here in little baskets. They didn't have to put them on silent necessarily, but they had to turn the volume down. And then they were supposed to be conducting a focus group. And what the guy did was then he got up out and he said, I'll be right back, which was the whole premise of the experiment, walked out. And then they started texting their phones to see how long those people could sit there and have their phones go off.
Oh.
Before they were compelled, before they needed to, before the addiction set in, that they had to check it. Right? And it was amazing because there was only one person out of 10 that sat there at the table and listened to the instructions. So it said, if you sit here and you don't touch your phone for the whole time, we will pay you. Everybody else couldn't handle it enough because their phones were going crazy. They had to get up and check it. And it was like a matter of minutes, not even like, they didn't wait 5 minutes. It was like 1 minute, 2 minutes. Then all of a sudden it's 5 minutes. Someone waited 10, but you could see they were just like, they couldn't handle it.
Wow.
So if it's like that for adults, just imagine what it's like for developing brains.
Yeah. When the long-term benefits of these studies is so, like, you're able to succeed if you're not tied to that instant gratification. And that's where addictions really get their power from, is that instant gratification.
Instant gratification. And that's what's happening to the generation, is they need that instant gratification. They don't get it from the human connection because they haven't been trained, or they haven't learned how to get it. Like my kids for so long, like I would watch behavioral issues. Okay, it's time to get off the iPad, and it'd be like, no, and they like hold on to it, and you're like dragging it away from them.
Yeah.
Well, I stopped and I said, okay, what did I create? So for me, it was more, I had to look back at what my habits were. And when I was going through my depression, and when I was dealing with heightened levels of anxiety, and I was living in fight and flight for a really long time because I had kind of lost this self-identity of myself. I was living remotely through my phone. I was looking at Facebook, then I was comparing, and then I was having a self-doubt, and then I was really watching my own thought processes degenerate. But while I was doing, I wasn't paying attention. I was just giving the kids technology, like, here, be quiet. It's easier to deal with you if you're just quiet in the corner. The problem was, as I created their own addiction. And once I became aware and I realized it, then I had to say, first I had to start with me. So what did I want for myself? Is I really want to be able to connect with my kids, and I want them to be able to talk to me without having a device in their hands. And I have to be able to do the same.
And when we talk about communicating, and so many times when they're older and teenagers and they're branching out off on their own, but it really starts when they're younger, like the preteens. You want to build that relationship with them, so when they do have an issue, they do need help, or if they're in a situation that they need to call for help, we need to have this relationship already established, so they trust us to come and help them instead of judging or being afraid. I remember there was a girl that I know several years ago. We lived in California, and there was this group of girls from church, and they were all friends and the good girls. And so they were having a sleepover party. It wasn't related to a church activity. They were just friends. And the one girl decided, I thought that they were my friends, I thought this was a good, safe place, but they're drinking and whatever else, and just being regular kids, not churchy kind of kids. And so she's like, well, I don't feel comfortable. I thought they were my church friends. And she didn't feel safe in calling her parents to come and get her. And so she walked home and was abducted.
Right.
And, it just rips my heart out still that we need to build these relationships with our young people so that they have somewhere to turn when they feel like they need help.
Absolutely. Because then they can, in turn, help build that with their peers. If they already know the tools to build safe, trusting, loving relationships with their own family, with their own siblings, then they're able to build that with their own friends. But I mean, I ask the question all the time. So how important do you feel when you're standing and talking to someone, they've got their phone in their hand, it goes off, and they look at it, and you're in the middle of a conversation?
Right. Oh, that happened to me yesterday. And I was like, wait a minute.
You don't feel important. You've lost the importance. So the presence, that's where presence makes a really big deal. I read a lot. Like I started understanding presence through Brendan Burchard. He's a high performance coach. And I really understood that you have to have it in life. And you have to ask yourself, how present am I in this moment? If my phone is here in my hand, like I can't let go of my phone, I'm only probably 85% present with somebody. Because at most. You're still attached to something that could go off at any moment.
Right.
Right? People can wait. You can respond to people. And that's what people don't understand is you don't have to respond in the moment. You can give it 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole purpose of a text or a message. It can sit there and wait until you're available and to fully be there, because you're not really giving the message your full attention either if you're trying to have a conversation at the same time. So neither one of those relationships get your whole attention.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of times you don't even have to have a cell phone or something else. Your brain is all over the place anyway, especially for a woman. You're thinking about everything else all over this, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I get it. Totally get it. Yeah.
a lot of times, I'll admit this, a lot of times I'm having a conversation with my husband and he's telling me about his day at work and I'm like, those are big words and I have no idea what you're talking about. But I was like, nope, come back.
Come back.
Yeah. Be here now.
Happens, and that's okay. We can have wandering thoughts and we can still be present. Especially like my husband's a machinist and he talks about a lot of things and I'm like, I don't even have a clue what that device is. So, okay. And okay. And he's like, did you pay attention? I'm like, but I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, I'll have to ask 100 questions. Like, so you made that part out of nothing? Oh, okay. And it goes on an airplane? Okay. I get it. Like, that's as simple as I need to know. I don't need to know the details of it all the time. But I think also one of the big things we need to be really cautious with giving our kids phones, especially in the teenage years, is do you allow it in their bedroom at night? When you go to bed, do you know if your kid's actually sleeping or are they awake? And I have a lot of friends that said, my kid wakes up so exhausted in the morning. And I was wondering why that was. And I said, well, go on his phone and if you can see, if they have their phone, if you can see, what time did they log off? Because a lot of them are on there until 1 o'clock in the morning. Right. So go to their most recent text message and have a see. When did they send that last one? Oh, 1 a.m. Well, no wonder they're only getting 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
And so they've been doing studies on that as well, like just the sleep deprivation that kids are having, and then the higher degrees of depression that are occurring and the anxiety. I mean, we see it all the time, like suicide rates are up. We have to stop as parents and as guardians of these younger generations and say, hey, why is that occurring? Why are younger people feeling so lonely in a world where we feel like we're connected all the time, but yet there's the degree of depression and loneliness is on a rise? Well, why is that?
It's just that outer layer is that far reaching, is not getting close to the core at all. It's just electronics. And there are ways to get through all those layers and connect at the core, but technology, it can be a tool to use for it, but most of the time it gets in the way.
Absolutely. And I think that, I mean, I'm not here to say take it away altogether, because I don't do that with my kids. But what I definitely do is we monitor it really, really closely. But I don't just monitor them, I monitor myself. So I'm really conscious that from 3 in the afternoon when they get home from school till about 4, I don't touch, my phone goes on silent. I hang out with them. We do our connection things. We work on homework. And then if they want a little bit of downtime because they've done their homework, so they've earned 30 minutes, they're allowed to go for 30 minutes. And because we actually took the iPads out of our house, like I don't even know where they are. My husband hid them. They just go downstairs and they watch a TV show. But one of the biggest things that we have to be really cognizant of is YouTube.
Oh yeah, YouTube's a different. I want to call it a monster, but it shouldn't be considered a monster.
It's not a monster. I think it's a fabulous way for this kind of information to get out there and people to share these kinds of conversations. I think there's so much value on YouTube, but it's so easy too for kids to hit and Google or hit and search something and end up in the wrong place. So we have to be really conscious about if you have young kids, maybe have YouTube Kids only accessible, and make sure that like adult YouTube isn't accessible. If you have teenage kids, you can monitor it. There's a new device out there called the Circle. And you can.
I haven't heard of that yet.
Yeah, so you can purchase the Circle. I believe it's on Amazon. In Canada, it's $129, and in the States, it's $99. And you can purchase the Circle, and it basically connects to your Wi-Fi. So then you can set it all up. So like you want your Wi-Fi to be off at 10 o'clock at night. So like no one has access to Wi-Fi anymore. It just shuts your Wi-Fi off in your whole house. And then through that, you can go and log in and you can say, okay, all the devices in our house that are connected to this, because you sign up, you connect it to the Circle, you can actually see where they've been. So you can actually see like, oh, they went YouTube. Oh, like whatever bad site, Snapchat. And I told my kids they're not allowed on Snapchat. You can see the activity. So then you can have conversations. So I highly recommend if people purchase it, that they sit down with their kids and they have a conversation and they explain, this device is going to turn the Wi-Fi off at 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is no more access. My girlfriend shuts hers off at 9 and no one's allowed devices up to their rooms. And then we're going to check it every now and again to see what you guys are on, because we've told you these are the things we're okay with. Instagram, Facebook, but we're not okay with Snapchat. And if you're on it, what consequences do you think we should set together? I absolutely believe parents and kids should set the consequences or the repercussion, whatever you want to call them, set them together. Because then you're setting the expectation and the stage for success versus freaking out and being like, that's it, we told you you're not allowed on Snapchat. And then they just like, parents just lose their nuggets. No, set it with them.
So what kind of consequences or what kind of plan would you suggest for a family who has teenagers? They're already in this technology thing. They want to bring them back. They want to get that connection started or whatever. What would you suggest a parent in that situation would do where they're in transition to being a
self-sufficient
adult? They can't really necessarily say, no, you can't have it because they're growing up and they've already got it.
Yeah.
Maybe they do have a job and maybe they are paying for it themselves. Is that just a lost cause if they've got their own?
No, because they're living in your house. So you can still say, we still expect that your phone, whether you pay for it or not, remains downstairs at night. You're still in school. Even if you have a job and you're paying for it, your phone still remains downstairs at night. So when you head upstairs, no phone in your bedroom. This allows them to have a really good sleep and rest, so that they're actually rejuvenating. I won't tell you, like I could say, like we'll still turn off the Wi-Fi at 10 o'clock at night, but that's just the rules in our house. When you move out, you can make your own rules. You can judge and feel, but I want you to do this as an experiment. Do me a favor. Let's try this for a week. And I want you to tell me every morning how you feel. Do you feel rested? Do you feel ready to go? Do you feel able to be in person with different people? And then do the experiment the opposite around. Give them the phone. Let them take it to bed. See what happens. And ask them the same questions. How do you feel today? Are you ready to go? I'm exhausted. I'm tired. Oh, what time did you go to bed? Not till 2 in the morning. And you get an idea of pattern. And then you say, well, how would you rather feel? Well, I liked it the last week when I was energized and ready to go. Okay, well, we're going to stick with leaving the phones downstairs and the Wi-Fi is off at a certain time.
I love that, where you say you're having the conversation with them. Of course, you're going to have the conversation with them and putting it in their court, letting them have the responsibility and encouraging all of the good benefits from it instead of bringing up all the bad things that are happening. Put the benefits at the forefront and let them experiment. I love the word experiment, and choose for themselves to see the results and try it, see what happens.
Because ultimately that's what teenagers are doing. They're experimenting in life. They're trying to figure out where they fit in. So I hope, and my husband and I have some of the similar ideas and some of the same, but over progress time in my conversations, we get to the same page. But I hope when my kids turn to be teenagers that they can say, you know what, I don't need my phone at night. We're losing the ability to read a book.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Reading is going down. So there's a reason why. If you want to go to bed and read a book for a half an hour, I'm all down for it. But you don't get to have the phone. You don't need to be connected in that way. It's actually really detrimental to the synapses in the brain, especially for young kids, because their brain's going like this, going like this, going like this. And then they try to calm it down, and that's where we see behavioral issues come from.
Yes.
So teenagers also need to understand, like, you actually need calm. Sleep is where your body rebuilds itself, and you need it.
Yeah. So I want to give some hope to those parents who might be wondering, like, this might be overwhelming and maybe impossible, because I can see so many parents being like, oh, but my kids really need it. They're whatever. And they don't want to damage or push away their teenager by
I think open the conversation.
Yeah.
Open it up. Don't give up.
my 15-year-old, he actually came to me a little while, I don't know how long ago it was, but he came to me and he said, I'm not doing Facebook anymore. I'm not doing any social media anymore. He took a fast from all social media, and he decided to extend that to all games and everything.
Lovely.
He has a game group that he meets with once a week with his buddies.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not going to go this week. I'm on my fast of all technology. He came to me by himself with this decision. And I didn't know that he had kept it up so much. They actually, all of his friends, they decided to create their own group chat on YouTube. So they can visit each other, but there's not any social media kind of stuff involved. And it's
private.
It's private. And he's in the musical at school, and so the theater department has put their their scenes, they've recorded them and put them on Facebook so they can practice.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't have a way to get my stuff, Mom, will you send that to me? instead of going back to Facebook. He's like, I don't need that junk. There's a bunch of junk there, but it is useful for these other things.
Yeah.
So I sent him the link to it, and he still is off of social media. He doesn't want to deal with it. And so for those parents out there who are thinking maybe that would be detrimental to your relationship, it's actually brought my son and myself closer together because he's coming to me and asking for help.
Yeah.
With these links and different things.
See, and I think that that's just, walk the hard trudge. It might be really hard right now. It might feel impossible. It might feel like you're in quicksand with your child, but know that it will get better. But keep the conversation open, keep it moving, and keep it fluid. So don't get rigid and stuck on set rules. I really find if you have such set rules and you're super rigid with it, there's no allowance for flow. And I love that your son came to you on his own. And I'd be really curious to say, what inspired you to take that action? I mean, that's something that totally needs to be shared. Like a 15-year-old chose not to. Well, what inspired you to get off of social media? What did you notice in yourself that was occurring that you decided, you know what, I don't need that?
Yeah, he noticed that. And he mentions it to me too sometimes. He's like, Mom, you're on your phone. And I'm like, but it's business. I have to respond. He's like, Mom, it can wait.
Business can wait too. And my kids do it all the time. They say the same thing. And I thought I would fight it. And then I was like, you know what? They're right.
Mm-hmm.
They're right, because I'm not actually supposed to be working right now.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part with online businesses, is that we have this compellness to constantly create and put our message out there. But it's okay if your message comes. And that's where I started struggling this year, was like, my message is about disconnecting and understanding, where technology is great and where it can be detrimental. How do I live and breathe that if I'm always on Facebook or Instagram? And then I realized really quickly, I don't need to always be on Instagram. My message is getting out there because I'm not always on it.
Right.
Because then I can post on Mondays. Look what I did this weekend. Look at the things we did. I didn't have my phone on me and I wasn't doing 100 stories. That's my journey and my path, and it feels good for me. So I think that, again, we're talking about creating awareness. Your son created awareness for himself that something didn't feel good, and he took action.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a great role model for all his friends, and anybody else that hears that can say, oh, you know what? Maybe it is social media. I've been feeling really down lately about myself, because you get caught in that comparison trap and judgment.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the beautiful part. I mean, I'm reading the book right now by Dr. Shefali, Conscious Parent. I highly recommend parents pick this up and have a read.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely about connecting with our children and the impact that can make.
And doing things on purpose, not just I'm in the room with them and they're around, but actually making the most of that time and consciously putting in the effort, taking it another step further. I think more like, we're in this room. What can I benefit from being in this room together?
Oh, and understanding what are connection activities. A lot of people are like, oh, I got to go out and do biking. I got to go and do all this active stuff. Actually, The true connection is in the quieter moments. It's in the, like, putting my kid in the bathtub and hanging out and reading a book to them. Having a conversation over breakfast. That's a huge one. You know, even while you're making the lunches and your kids are eating, you can still be connecting with them because you're creating a flow of conversation. So understanding that it's not always going and doing that's connecting. It's actually allowing and being that is connecting.
Allowing and being. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the conversations, it's hard to get to know someone if you're not having a conversation with them.
Absolutely. I mean, we all know that. I mean, I think you and I met through online years ago, a couple of years ago, through different groups and stuff. And then I shared my rant on my first day of school.
I love your rant.
But it was like, and I don't do that very often, but my husband's like, what compelled you? And I said, because I think things need to change. And I think it starts with one parent stepping up and saying, you know, that didn't feel good. I think I have a voice. I can say something about it. Whether it's going to change in the future, I have no idea. But I know that if I keep talking to different people, change will occur.
And I love how you go about it. And you're just having a conversation. You're not whining and complaining. You're looking for that different outcome. And I think that's where parents, sometimes we hold back because we don't want to get that reputation of the whiner or you know, no wonder their kids are always complaining or, you know, stuff like that. But if we have an end result in mind, and I think this goes for every conversation or every relationship that we have, every connection with our kids, have an end result in mind. I mean, we can say, oh, you need to use that app to practice your language class. Go do that for your set amount of time. That's your outcome. And then you come back and we have dinner without the phone and without, you know, there's a place and a time for everything. I don't believe that anything needs to be, like you're saying, so strictly.
Yeah, there's nothing's finite.
Yeah. If you need to do something on the computer or the internet or whatever it is, set a time for it. Just don't let it take over. Remember to come back.
Absolutely. And if you realize, like, I mean, how many of us have been on Facebook and you're like, oh, wait, that hour just went by and I don't even remember what I was looking at or what was my purpose to get there because I just got caught up in scrolling land. I mean, if we do that, so are they.
Right.
So we have to, that's where it's like, it's a dichotomy. It's this relationship. I always say to my husband, so you're going to put your phone down tonight? We're actually going to like hang out, you know, because he likes to play a game, but he's really good at not doing it until like the kids are asleep.
Oh, that's good.
Right. So the kids are we've done our whole like nighttime routine. Now we're really busy family and really active right now. And so we don't actually have time to pick up our phones to even remotely play a fun game because we're going. We slow down in October, and that's where we call October our connection month, our like true, slow, life doesn't have to move super fast connection. So we can just be, and we actually eat dinners together. We have time to do that. Whereas right now, we're running out of the house carrying wraps in our hands to get to BMX racing and soccer practice. And all of that's going to come to an end here. And then I purposely do not overschedule my kids.
And ours doesn't slow down till November. My kids were saying something the other day. It's like, maybe I could look into that in November. I'm like, I'm glad you can see that. look at that.
Yeah, but you're teaching them that time awareness. Like, oh, I can't commit to too many things because that'll like overspend me. And I think we tend to see technology as an easy way of doing things and getting things done that we forget to say, oh my goodness, that's still too much to do.
And also when we think that we're so busy and we're so doing of all this stuff, a lot of people think that technology is a way to relax and calm down, but it doesn't really work that way. It's a trick. It's not, it doesn't help us really relax. Our brain doesn't get to that relaxed spot.
No, because you're taking in, first of all, any energy rays that are coming off of the devices, but it's like all that stimulation's hitting your eyes, which is keeping your brain going. So actually, incorporating a practice of meditation, I find was really important for me. And the more I meditated, now the kids want to.
Nice.
Right. So we have, and then calm nights. So like we sit, they always like, we'll watch a movie together or we'll watch a show. But we're really selective on what kind of show. So we watch things like America's Got Talent, because we know, okay, after this performance, TV's off. We don't have to watch the whole thing. We can watch a few performances and then we can shut it off. And it's not like you're missing the story. You can pick it back up tomorrow. My kids have learned that over time. Oh, wait, yeah, I can just pick it back up tomorrow if I want to, or 3 days later down the road if we actually have time. But instead of just plugging in, I always told my son, I'm like, do you feel more relaxed after you plug in? He's like, no. I'm like, no, exactly. You're harder to deal with. I think parents have to be like, why is my kid so hard to deal with right now? Oh, wait, he just spent 3 hours in front of the television.
And we miss that part too. One of the benefits is we're able to process more naturally whatever's going on in our body and our mind without, it's like it puts it on pause when we're on our technology or the TV or whatever it is. All of that processing is just waiting to be processed. It's on pause. And then when we get off, it's like, floods us and we have to take a moment. And I think, I know I have done this in the past personally where I'm like, okay, it's off. Let's go. Da, 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 da. And my kids are like,
yeah, too much. Yeah, too much. And I think like that for you, you're just creating awareness again for yourself. Just saying, okay, maybe I just need to take a pause. And it's okay to take a pause in your day and go, okay, I have been staring at my computer all on why am I hitting a roadblock? Why am I stuck and I can't finish writing this blog? Why am I anything? And there's different studies out there proven. I actually put on a timer. I work for like 10 minutes at a time. 10 minutes, focus, attention, and then I get up and I go and I clean my kitchen, or I go outside and I sit by my pond. My husband just built me, and listen to the waterfall and let things go. But I don't carry my phone with me. That's the big part. Like I don't go and do it with my phone. I just go and be. Or I say, you know what? I'm going to work for 20 minutes today, and then I'm going to sit down for 5 seconds, and I'm going to pick up my book and I'm going to read. Or I'm going to just do some free journaling. Whatever that is for you, find that and take it. Because that's also part of self-care as mama.
Oh, yeah. We got to do our self-care.
Yeah, we got to do our self-care. I mean, we've all heard it forever, and we never take it. And then all of a sudden, you know, someone like myself who's deals with 2 years of like depression, starts wondering why that happened. And it's all because I was doing everything for everybody else and never for myself.
Right. We get stuck in, that's the layer that I was stuck in, is I'm a mom. So I can't do anything else because I'm a mom. But it's just an experience that's added on to who we are. We're not just that experience. It's part of who we are. It affects how we relate to the world and everything. But we're more.
We're more.
We need to take care of ourselves and remember who we are. And if we've forgotten who we are, lost our identity, we can create from where we are now. We don't have to go back and try and remember, because that will never work. That will never work because we've had these experiences added onto us and we're not the same as what we used to be.
Exactly.
Start from where we are and move forward and create from here. So I'm seeing some things. We're almost out of time. Before we go, I want to make sure we touch on presence, and I'd like to ask you one thing that you do each morning that, and remembering that we're the example that we set for our kids and everybody around us, how they develop is affected by how we treat ourselves, and we're the example. But before we do that, I want to remind the people who are listening, I'm Lydia Taggart. This is Layers of Communication. We're visiting with Heather Ruth today. You can find me at lydiataggart.com. And Heather, where can people find you?
I'm at heatherruth.com. Yep, I'm there, or Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. Heather Ruth, Heather J. Ruth, actually, on Facebook, because there was somebody else had my name.
Oh, this names.
But yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
tell
So Heather J. Ruth.
Tell us more about presence and those things that we talked about.
So presence right now could be very many different things for some people, but I definitely ask myself, how present do I want to be? It's a question that goes through my head probably about 15 times in a day. How present do I want to be in this moment? So before I got on with you, I did a little bit of meditation, a little bit of tapping to create the space so that I could be fully with you, even if like a phone vibrated over there.
And tapping, for the people who are new to this idea, is the EFT tapping, right? The
EFT tapping, so it's just tapping on different points. It's just to calm my nervous system down because I get a little bit nervous. And, just to utilize my anxiety, because anxiety is my tool to tell me that something's happening that I'm excited about. And so I started to understand that. So presence is just being fully present in your body, so feeling it, and present with you. I'm not focused on anything else. So if you were sitting in front of me, we would be having that same conversation to varying degrees of non-distraction. I guess that's the words I mean. I ask myself, if I'm in the middle of a conversation and I can feel my head wander, how present am I right now? And then I try to rate it like 1 through 10. And if I'm a 1, it means I'm like, I have missed the whole conversation. Like I was some other land. But if I can say, I'm a 5, okay, I want to be a 7. I want to be in this conversation. What's making me not present? Oh, it's my kid tugging on my shirt every 5 seconds. So I have to withdraw myself and say, how can I help you? Give that space and time, but do it really politely. So if they need my 5 seconds of attention or presence, then I give them my 5 seconds of presence. And I ran a daycare for like 6 years. And there'd be times where you're working with one kid and then all the other kids all of a sudden want to be on you, or your phone would ring because someone's sick. Like, just a second, it's so-and-so, I have to answer this phone. They're sick. Okay, great. We'll see you guys tomorrow. But then as soon as you pick up the phone, those kids want your attention.
Yeah. Or as soon as you go to the bathroom.
That's a whole other story. We can talk about that. I don't know if I've had any private bathroom moments in my life in like 10 years. But yeah, it's absolutely in that moment. So I'll even say to my kids, Mommy's just going to go to the bathroom. Just allow her to have that time. Right?
And let them know that you're not leaving forever.
Yeah.
I don't know why they think if you're going on the phone or you're going to the bathroom, they think, oh no, Mom's leaving me.
Exactly.
Gonna come back.
So presence begins with your own body, and then it begins with your mind. It's your mind and body connection, and then it's with the person that you're with in that moment. So if you're all by yourself at home, how present do you want to be with yourself? And some days we don't even want to be with ourselves, so that's okay. Go for a walk. Get into nature. Find where it is you can connect with your spirit and bring it back.
That's beautiful.
And if you just don't feel like doing anything, forgive yourself and be okay with that.
Yeah, because it's okay. It's okay if we don't feel like it today. Maybe you'll feel like it tomorrow.
Exactly. So it's just being aware of how we feel and asking that question. How do I feel today? How present do I want to be in this moment? And I ask myself that before my feet hit the floor in the morning.
So you wake up and your mind starts going. I know my mind starts going before I wake up. It's very different for men. It's very different for men. They have a nothing box. And women don't have a nothing box.
I want a nothing box.
I want one too.
I'm trying to create it.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm honestly working on it. I said to my husband, I'm creating a nothing box right now.
Awesome. You have to let me know how good you get at it. I'm like, I don't even know if I start thinking about making a nothing box, and then I think of all the other stuff.
all the other boxes. Yeah. But I do. I believe that we can have it if we want it. I think we can, as women and as with our brains that are all wired interjectionally, thinking about all the connections that everything makes. I think we, through meditation or through any kind of, if it's prayer that works for you, all of that stuff, you can actually create your nothing box. You can create that space that you can go to that's silent and it's quiet, and you can just be there. And I think it just becomes a practice of, again, I think presence with self, where the nothing box comes. Men are okay being by themselves. They don't care.
Yeah. Well, my husband was sick yesterday, and so I kept trying to have a conversation with him. I was like, "Are you in your nothing box?" He's like, "Yes, I am." I said, "Okay, I'll come back later. How you doing? Are you ready to have a conversation?" He's like, "What do you want to talk about?" I'm like, "Are you in your nothing box?" "Yes, I am." I was like, I've actually been in a nothing box myself for a fraction of a second. It was amazing. As soon as I got there, a great idea came to me. And I was like, oh, and I was gone. Not in the nothing box anymore.
But just remember, I got there once, and I can get there. And so I think that's beautiful. That's super beautiful that you got there, and you know you can get there. And we may not get to spend a whole lot of time there, but at the same time, we can get there.
Yeah. And so this nothing box, I think, is really this idea of being able to tune out to everything else, be present with ourselves, have no worries, and just be, like you're saying, allowing that flow. And this is the goal for our kids that we want, right? We want them to be able to be happy with being by themselves for a minute or two. And that's
beautiful, because guess what we are? We're human beings.
Yeah, to be.
We're not human doing.
That's right.
Right? So we have to learn to be a little bit more. I mean, I follow a lot of people like Lewis Howes and Jay Shetty, and finished reading The Urban Monk, and it was all like just really neat things, trying to get different perspectives all the time. And I specialize in Latin American culture. People ask me, what'd you go to school for? And I said, well, I went and did an arts degree in Latin American culture, and I specialize in that area of the world. So all of their practices, if you actually look back to it, everything that are even religion, it all comes from these ancient cultures and how they practice. And family was core in everything. It was core back way in the day. We've just lost sight of that because we get so busy doing stuff that we're uncomfortable just sitting and being.
Right. And family has been the core in every culture.
Every culture, Eastern, Western, you name it, it's there. It's the roots. It's the connection to self. Even if you don't have a family, you create one. And that's another part of my message, that family isn't just what you're born into. It's also who you create and surround yourself with.
That's right.
And I think we lose sight of that a lot of times. So, but that's what presence is to me. It's fully mind and body, just being, comfortable with who you are in that moment. And just how present do you actually want to be in life? Because there's some people are in a lot of pain. And so being present with themselves hurts too much. And I get it. I've been there, and it's easier to just shut off. But all I can say is feel it.
Feelings are meant to be felt.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things still. I remember when my friend first told me feelings are meant to be felt, and I had been putting on that face, I'm okay, everything's okay, it's going to be okay. She said, no, it's not.
Yeah. I think I met you when you started really talking about having quadruplets.
Yeah.
And you really started talking about what is that journey? I have no idea what you've been through. Like, I can't even fathom in my head what it's like to have 4 kids the same age running around doing the same thing.
Well, it's intense. That's just, we have a steep learning curve. It's just exciting. There's not very much downtime. And that's good for me. I look back now and I say, you know what? If I didn't have them all at the same time, I wouldn't have them. I don't have the stamina. I'm a sprint runner. I'm not a long distance runner.
But you found that, like, some people would lament on that, right? Whereas you found the gratitude and the silver lining of saying, I've got these 4 beautiful kids. I got, now what do I do with it? Awesome. I just enjoy it.
Yeah. And that's being present too. No matter what we are dealing with, we want to be present so that we can find the joy. And sometimes we have to feel those feelings so that we can, get through that so we can have the next experience.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I love your platform of putting the technology down, because that really aids in all of those things. So this is one of the many, many benefits of not having the technology all the time with us.
It's exactly what helped me. I mean, I'm coming from a very authentic, genuine place. If I hadn't have put my technology down, I can guarantee you I would not be sitting here talking to you today. If I hadn't taken the time to be aware of what my impact was, like how I was even becoming so needing to be connected through this online world, and went and said, oh, wait a second. The human connections are a little bit more value to me. What's important, what's truly important, is meeting and, you know, being able to attend events. Like, I'm really conscious when I go to events too, that I'm not always on my phone. And I'm speaking at an event this Saturday in Thunder Bay, Ontario, all about this. And I'm losing my mind nervous because I know how I want to start it. But I also hoping to bring awareness to the ladies that are in attendance. How many times in that day? Because I don't go on until like later in the afternoon. And how many times in that day have they already been attached to the online world?
Yeah, and I was noticing that too. I mean, sometimes things happen, so we get to have that awareness. My phone died last night. I had 2% battery, and I went to plug it in, and it was gone. So it was turned off through the night. I was like, that's okay. My husband's got an alarm. I don't need to have my phone. But in the morning, I was like, oh, I don't have my phone. Oh, I don't have my phone. But then at other times, I went to my meeting this morning, and I had my computer. We're sitting at a table, and I had my computer and everything there, and it died. This battery thing is an issue today. And oh, let's move our office over to where the plug is. And so we picked up and we moved, and like 10 minutes later, my phone started ringing, and I had left it over there. I totally forgot because I was present. And I think that's a really great place to be, as long as I don't lose it.
Yeah, it's cool. And there was some people have been posting this on Facebook the last 2 days, this sign, and it said, I've seen a guy at Starbucks. He had no phone, no laptop, no nothing. He was a psychopath. And I thought, I go to Starbucks all the time. I go out and I just take my book and my journal, and I leave my phone behind in the car. I leave it in the car for a reason, because if I get in my car and my kids have phone, then I can, excuse me. But I thought, that's a funny post. Like, people were like, that guy's crazy. But it made people think, you can go out without your phone and you're not weird.
Yeah.
Because he was connecting with himself. He was doing whatever it meant for him, or whatever that message said to you, to connect to himself. And I do it all the time. My phone's on silent pretty much most of the day, because I like to focus on my things, not other people's things.
Oh,
that's where I'm at.
Frees us when we don't have to worry about it so much. If we can get over that little bit of waiting for the marshmallow reward, wait a little bit longer, the blessings and gifts that we give to ourselves from patience and giving a place and a time for everything, that those things on the phone can wait for a few minutes.
Oh yeah.
It's just amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you get an opportunity like this. Like, I loved your letter you sent me. Like, make sure there's no distractions. I'm like, I will make sure, Lydia, there's nothing to distract me. Like, I am fully present with you. Don't worry. But it was a good reminder, because I think sometimes we forget and we don't turn the phone on silent or whatever, and we get distracted. So,
you do. And you wouldn't think, if you're going on a radio show or some sort of conversation like this, and you're going to be live, you wouldn't think that there's a lot of people who would be like, oh, but I'm bringing my phone. If you're talking on a TV station with the world watching you, you're not going to be like, oh, let me see, and distracted. You're going to, if I go and meet Oprah Winfrey, my phone's not going with.
No, strictly. I'm like, someone else can snap that selfie. Like, we're good. I want to be there. I want to experience that. So I think that's important. Yeah.
But we forget that all of our relationships deserve that much respect and honor. All of our interactions with people.
That's good. I love that what you said, that all our relationships deserve that. Whether you are in it, you should be there. You should be present.
Yeah. Heather, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
To help us. I'm Lydia Taggart, and this is Layers of Communication. We've been visiting today with Heather Ruth. You can find me at lydiataggart.com. You can find Heather at heatherruth.com. Remember that you are worth it, and so are they. Have a good one.
Bye.
You've been listening to Layers of Communication with your host, Lydia Taggart. Tune in next week as we discover the layers in order to communicate and connect down to your core on Lydia Taggart's Layers of Communication.